Okay, hi everyone, welcome back, and in this video we are going to check out Ondo's price chart and see what is going on. And a spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you why despite the recent move on the downside, I actually bought like a very good amount of Ondo, and I'll be honest with you, I actually feel like pretty good about myself, and I'm going to tell you why. But before we get into all that, as per usual, we are going to remind ourselves why we are investing in this project and why this is actually a project with a fantastic fundamental. So are we ready? Let's dive in and see what is going on. And if you actually go back and check out my previous videos about Ondo, you realize that we talked about some important clips from Larry Fink himself, the CEO of BlackRock, saying that, look, tokenization is the future. Every single thing will be tokenized on the blockchain space. And that's one very important reason for why we are so bullish on this whole tokenization narrative. But there are actually some problems in that path. And in today's update, we are going to break down actually one of the biggest issues that has held RWA tokenization back for many years. And it is called, yup, you guessed it, liquidity. You see, most people in the crypto market are used to thinking about liquidity in terms of, let's say, AMMs and pools like, for example, maybe Uniswap, but that entire model is actually going to like absolutely fall apart when you try to apply it to real stocks. Why is that? You see, to trade something like Apple's stock on chain, according to the old models, somebody essentially has to like millions of dollars of actual Apple shares and also billions of dollars of stable coins inside a liquidity pool. And that setup, well, you know it is actually like very capital inefficient. And when you multiply it across thousands of stocks and multiple blockchains, well, the numbers simply do not make a whole lot of sense, and you would actually need like billions and bajillions of dollars just sitting idle. And even if that money actually existed, okay, the pool still wouldn't come close to the liquidity or depth of markets like, for example, NASDAQ, which means large orders would actually cause huge slippage and make the whole system unusable for serious investors. And this, my friends, is exactly the problem that Ondo is trying to solve with their fantastic solution. And their approach is actually like much more practical. You see, they are saying instead of rebuilding liquidity on chain, we are going to just simply tap directly into traditional market liquidity. And for example, when a user presses buy button, the order doesn't actually get, according to this scenario, routed to a small DeFi pool. No, it actually gets executed by a regulated broker in the actual stock market. That means once the order fills on NASDAQ or maybe NYSE, Ondo mints a tokenized version of that asset straight into the user's wallet, and there is in this scenario no pool, no capital sitting around doing absolutely nothing, and basically no need to bootstrap liquidity asset by asset. The blockchain becomes in this scenario the settlement layer, but the liquidity actually comes from the real financial markets that already process hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars every single day. Now, I think it's very important to understand that the impact of this is actually quite significant, because this actually removes the main barrier that has kept institutional investors out of this whole RWA narrative, and large funds need deep liquidity. Okay, it's very important to understand that they just cannot afford to move a price just because they want to trade a few millions of dollars. Now, by inheriting Wall Street's market depth, okay, now Ondo gives them the execution quality that they are used to, and on top of that, the model in here is like much more capital efficient, since Ondo doesn't really rely on TVL to support trading in here. Okay, this in my view is the key point, and it means that they are able to scale to thousands of stocks without needing billions of dollars locked up across different chains. Also, another advantage that users get in here is the speed and transparency of blockchain settlement, while still at the same time interacting with real market pricing. And because these tokenized assets live on chain, eventually I believe they are going to be able to plug into DeFi. Maybe they're going to be used as collateral, maybe borrowed against, or maybe even integrated into new financial products. And that is only possible when the underlying liquidity is reliable and deep. And this setup that Ondo is implementing finally makes that very much, in my view, a reality. So in short, Ondo is actually taking a very grounded approach, and they are saying, look, instead of trying to outcompete Wall Street's liquidity, we are just going to connect to it and bring every single thing on chain. And that actually makes tokenized stocks like far more practical and opens the doors for real adoption, not just experiments. And this is actually one very important reason that I do think Ondo is actually going to attract a whole lot of adoption when it comes to RWA narrative. Okay, in my view, this is probably Ondo's big advantage over the other competitors, and it's actually one very important reason for why am I so bullish on Ondo, beside of course many other reasons. So in terms of fundamentals, again, I think Ondo is absolutely on the right direction, and the question is, well, okay, why is it that fundamentals doesn't necessarily show itself on the price? That's because what we are saying at the beginning of every single video in terms of fundamentals actually will show itself, but in the mid to long term. In like very short term, you're actually better off paying attention to what is going on in terms of technical analysis, and my field of work well is specifically classic TA and also Elliott Swift. Now, having said all that, let's go on the live chart and see what is going on in Ondo. Let's zoom in more. There we go. Excuse me. Let's just do this. Okay. So if you remember, the last time that we talked about Ondo, we were actually right around this area. And let's actually real quick go on maybe 15-minute time frame so we can see the candles a bit better, because the idea was that, well, okay, even if from here we get another move on the upside, and even if in that move we end up taking this high, be careful. Overall, this whole move might be just a correction structure, probably a WXY, generally suggesting our move down in Ondo is probably not over yet. And the main reason for our argument, if you remember, came down to classic TA, meaning support and resistances, because we said, look, right in here, we really do not have a whole lot of strong support. So odds are our move down is actually going to unfortunately continue in the short term in order to get to about the next important support, which is all the way down here between, let's say, 41 cents to about 47.5 cents. And I want to be very clear, this isn't like one support. No, this is actually a cluster of important supports from weekly and daily time frame at the same time. And I really don't think that we are going to end up getting a break of this level. And by the way, I actually saw a couple of people on Twitter talking about having in Ondo. Let's actually go maybe on Coinbase's chart. There we go. I saw a couple of people talking about a potential head and shoulder structure right in here, and they were like, well, okay, in Ondo we are basically going to go to zero, because if you want to measure the targets for this head and shoulder, you need to put your chart on regular scale and then measure the height of our pattern from here to about this point and put this thing as our breaking point right in here. This is giving you about, let's say, negative 70 cents in Ondo. Basically, the idea was that we are going to go like a whole lot lower in Ondo, and our move down is going to continue for quite some time. Now, do not get me wrong, this scenario can be in play, but I'm saying this because I don't really want to say never, okay? I'll be honest with you, this by no means is my base case. And even if you are like really interested in classic patterns, and in this specific example, this beautiful possible head and shoulder structure, I think this time and for this time and this time only, you might be better off putting your chart on logarithmic and then measuring your target from here to about this point and put it at your breaking point. This is giving you about, let's say, like a 20 cents Ondo. Can this happen? Again, in the interest of never saying never, I'm gonna say yes, it can absolutely happen. But again, I'm gonna say it's not really my base case, or at least right now, it's not my primary scenario. I mean, sure, if we end up having like a very strong move on the upside in order to take the highs and maybe during this process, a lot of stupid short-term traders are going to open trades with like massive amounts of leverages. Well, okay, that could potentially support like a massive crash in Ondo, and for that matter, I would say probably a whole lot of other altcoins as well, in order to possibly visit the lows in here once more. But right now, I don't really think that's gonna happen. In my view, there's like a very high chance that we are actually going to get a rejection from this important support area, and we are going to end up having a rather good move on the upside. And that's why right around the lows, I am actually buying Ondo like quite a lot, and I do actually feel good about my investment because this isn't some meme coin, okay? This is a project with a solid fundamental, and the reason for why I care about fundamentals is this. You see, let's just say I am wrong, and by the end of this cycle, we are not going to have any alt season at all. Okay, you know what? Fair enough. It's not my base case, but you know, absolutely fine. In that case, I actually don't really expect all the projects in the altcoin market to survive until the next bull run. No, I think a lot of projects are going to go down. So you're actually better off holding the projects with solid fundamentals that you are confident that they are going to survive the bear market. And Ondo, do not get it twisted, in my view, is definitely another one of those projects. So this, my friends, is why right in here I'm buying Ondo quite a bit, and my average purchase is not actually in here. Unfortunately, it's somewhere around these areas. I think the last time that I checked, it was about 57 cents region. So I feel like as long as we are staying under 57 cents, I should buy more and more Ondo. And if we end up going down maybe once more in order to get a retest of these levels, I don't really mind adding more to my portfolio, because I do think the risk to reward ratios now make absolute perfect sense. Let's say you want to buy Ondo right around this support, and on average, let's say around generally the 50 cents area. At that point, if we are going to get a period of time where altcoins are going to outperform BTC, what's going to be your target for Ondo? Well, a likely target in my view can easily be around this very important gap that was created as a result of this fall happening way too fast, and this is somewhere around, let's say, generally $1. So I'm gonna have essentially about a 50 cents target. On the other hand, what's my stop loss? Well, if I want to play it safe, it's going to be naturally under this level, let's say, just to be like much more safe, somewhere around 35 cents region. So essentially, I'm having a 15 cents stop, but on the other hand, a 50 cents target, meaning my risk to reward ratio is somewhere around, let's say, 1 to 3. And I don't know about you guys, this for me is a fantastic trade, okay? If I open trades like this with great risk to reward ratios long enough, I think overall I'm going to end up making quite a good bit of money. And as my final point, what is happening in the short term? Can we argue maybe even we are lucky and we have hit the lows? The answer, maybe. You see, the only scenario that I think I'm able to find in here, if you want to argue this is our low, is probably going to be a 1, 2, right? We can say this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, let's actually argue that this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave up into a larger degree wave 3 correction for another move into wave 5, and even that one on a higher degree, it's going to be into this wave 3 correction for another move on the upside into wave 5. In other words, if we end up having a bit of a strong move down in Ondo, in order to, I would say, specifically actually take this important low about 45 cents, well, at least you can say maybe the short-term bullish scenario is sort of kind of invalidated, meaning, yep, we are probably headed just a little bit lower. But in terms of fundamentals, again, I told you, from my POV, any kind of move down from this point moving forward in Ondo, it's just going to be a buy opportunity, because I don't really think before having like a meaningful bounce, we are going to get a break of this important support. And I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in Ondo's chart. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time. Goodbye.